Great day, beloved. Great day. Great day. Hope you're having a marvelous day so far. That it is blessed and that's full of gratitude. So we're at episode three of season 3, and I'm super excited. For those who are new, welcome, welcome, welcome. And for those who have been with me, for a while, just welcome back, welcome back too, welcome back. And, I really appreciate you following, this podcast, and hope that you are sharing the podcast and also sharing what you're learning and what you've learned thus far. So as always, we want to make sure that we create our safe container. We want to create sacred space, this holy ground, if you will. So anytime that we're together, right? Anytime we're together, we want to make sure that we do that. But anytime and anywhere you are, you want to make sure that it is sacred space, okay? So relax. I want you to make sure that if you're sitting, sit with your spine, your back straight and, erect, but not stiff. I want you to be relaxed, okay? Make sure that you are relaxed. We want to concentrate on our deep breathing, concentrate on centering ourselves, concentrate on, really focusing on opening up or decalcifying our third eye. And so we want to concentrate on that spot in the forehead, in the middle between your eyebrows, okay? And we do what? We're going to take in 3 deep breaths. And then remember that we're always breathing in, breathe in positivity, breathe in those things that serve us, breathe in those things that allow us to be service to others, okay, that we bring our gifts to the universe. We also exhale. We exhale, breathe out those things that no longer serve us, those things that are destructive, okay, and those things that are negative. So we breathe in through our nostrils, and we feel our diaphragm, a deep breath in, breathe in, we hold it for a 4 count, and then breathe out slowly through your mouth. So once you go ahead, you have the rhythm, breathe in, and know that we are creating sacred spaces. This is sacred spaces, is hallowed ground. Our time together is a safe container that, as you're breathing in, breathe in, make sure that is full breath. And as we exhale, and every exhale, I want you to, as you're visualizing, opening up your third eye, opening up that pineal gland, and we're decalcifying that because that's how we truly, truly connect with the divine in us, can connect with the source in us, so that it can connect with source energy, connect with God, okay? So, and every time that you breathe out, on the exhale, I want you to see a light. I want you to see that light glowing in the middle of your forehead, glowing in your third eye. And every breath, especially exhale, it's getting brighter and brighter, okay? Continue to breathe in. Remember, breathe in deeply and hold it 4 count, and then breathe out. Okay, so know that this is a safe space, this is a safe container, that this is hallowed ground, while we are together. Deep breath in, breathe out slowly. One more deep breath in, and exhale slowly. Again, welcome to Connecting to Source with Rev Stephon. I am your host, Rev Stephon, and this is episode 3 of season 3. We're dealing with the tabernacle. We're dealing with the wandering, right? The wandering of the mixed multitude that has come out of Egypt. And for us, as we are building our consciousness, we're building our spiritual consciousness, we are moving out of a bondage consciousness. We're out of bondage thinking, anything that keeps us tied down, keeps us from experiencing our true potential. And we're building this spiritual. We're on this spiritual journey. We're building a consciousness of abundance, a consciousness and moving away from a lack consciousness, okay? We're moving towards the promised land, if you will. So this episode, we're going to talk about sacred craftsmen, divine skill, and spiritual service. Okay? Sacred craftsmen, divine skill, and spiritual service. And even though it says craftsmen, we could say craftspersons, but also always remember that, I'm not talking about specific gender. I'm not talking about male versus female and that kind of thing. Well, I'm talking about us as human beings, us as spiritual beings, us as co-creators. Okay, we both, men and women, contain feminine and masculine energy. Okay, so today, we explore the divine calling and equipping of sacred craftsmen, okay, and how this reveals the partnership between divine inspiration and human skill in spiritual work, okay? And so, for scriptural context, we're in Exodus 31, verses 1 through 11. Exodus 31, verses 1 through 11, where God specifically calls Bezalel and Oholiab by name and fills them with divine spirit for tabernacle construction. Okay? This calling reveals how divine work requires both supernatural inspiration and developed human abilities working in harmony. Okay? Both supernatural inspiration and developed human abilities working together in harmony. Okay? So what are the other scriptural connections that we can find, connected to our primary calling text? Okay, so in Exodus 35, 30 through 36, Exodus 35, 30 through 36, it's actually 35, chapter 35, verses, okay, 30, and it's going to take you into 36 verse 7. Okay, 36 verse 7. It's going to take you there. We find the implementation and the abundance. Okay, so all this ties back into this primary text, which is 31 verses 1 through 11. And then in First Chronicles 28:12, we see David receiving the temple plans by spirit. All right. So this is the divine inspiration. Even though David is not the one who constructs the temple, he receives the plan. He receives the temple plans, by divine inspiration. In First Corinthians 12, 4 through 11, it talks about the diverse spiritual gifts. So we all, have, and we all receive spiritual gifts. These spiritual gifts alone, right, with our developed abilities, these are things that make way for us. Word says that our gifting makes way for us. And this is, the combination of our spiritual gifts and our human abilities. It makes way for us. Okay, you utilizing it, for not just work, and really, I'm not talking about so much work done for wages or work. You go to the job, but the work we do, the things that we bring to the universe, our gifting, they make way for us. Okay, in Ephesians 2:10, where it talks about that we were created for good works. We are created for good works. We are created to carry on the continued creative work of source, of God. Okay, we are co-creators, made in his image, made in its image, its imagination, made in its likeness, the likeness of being utilizing our creative energy, if you will. Okay, so some of the historical context there, there have been ancient craftsmanship, and there are guild systems from antiquity. Back in historical guild systems, talking about architects and of course the great architects, but talking about craftsmen, masons, are something specifically that we can draw ties to, in contemporary times. So the Masons draw from that. The organization Masons draws from that ancient or that those guilds in that antiquity. Yet the Egyptian artistic traditions and techniques that were learned during bondage. So the bondage, within that bondage, there were people who were already skilled, but they also learned different traditions, right? Different traditions, brought by or developed, by the Egyptians. And metalworking and skills developed. These metalworking skills developed in Egypt and Sinai. Okay, so we talked last week about metallurgy, right? The working with metals, specifically bronze, the folding of metals, all this crafting different things through metalwork, okay? And then we also talked about textile production and that expertise, that developed from a pastoral lifestyle. Those that were the keeper of sheep, the keeper of sheep, where the wool and all these different things were used in this textile production, but also the skill sets that they were able to create linen garments and then understanding plant life and things like that, where they were able to develop different dyes. Stone cutting, definitely, to be able to cut the stone, so precise, for building monuments and building the pyramids. I mean, that craftsmanship, has not been duplicated, the building those types of structure. I mean, it was, to this day, it baffles people how, certain angles and just how, they were able to fit stones together in certain ways. So that's stone cutting and carving knowledge, from these building projects. And then master and apprentice teaching systems that were in these ancient cultures. So there were always these relationships, these type of master apprentice relationships from a historical standpoint. So the selection of Bezalel was from Judah, and Oholiab was from Dan. Those tribes, the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Dan, represented both leadership and service tribes. Right? Leadership and service tribes, Judah, Dan, showing how divine instruction bridges different backgrounds and capabilities. Okay, different backgrounds and capabilities. So this is representative of that. The selection of these two is this example. So we have this artistic and technical capabilities. Gold working required sophisticated techniques for overlaying and shaping. Textile arts involve complex dyeing and weaving and embroidery. Stone cutting for precious gems. Stone cutting for precious gems required precision, right, and artistic vision. Certain cuts, from different facets of stones and things like that. Wood carving for furniture and structural elements, and assembly. So, we know the modern assembly line, but, the assembly, the coordination that, it took in antiquity, the assembly coordination for these these complex multi-part constructions. So all these different things that we can still witness and see, we can see the intricacy, how intricate the work was. And so, there was this complex assembly process that, that it required. So, so there's some historical context. We're going to bring, the scriptural context and marry it with the historical context so we can, get a better understanding of these teachings. All right. So, so we have this, in our main text, this divine calling and selection. So called by name, Bezalel, Bezalel, and we know El, is a connection with God, connected with source in the name. So Bezalel means in the shadow of God. Remember El, God. So Bezalel means in the shadow of God. Okay. Oholiab means tent of the Father. This is showing how the divine calling often reflects spiritual identity and purpose. Remember, even to today's, in some cultures, they won't name a baby as it's born. They will wait to see. Right. And then there are certain signs, and, when it comes to when it was born and those baby was born and things like that, that will be a part of the naming process, even in certain cultures today. So this teaches us that spiritual service flows from who we are in divine consciousness rather than arbitrary assignment. Because I know that, a lot of ethnic names, especially in the Black community, people shun them or whatever, but they don't, the parents may or may not know, the correlation when certain, if you end the name in and what that is in the spiritual, connotations to, those types of names. Okay. So, this call by name and the spiritual meaning of those names, right, teaches us that this spiritual service, right, flows from who we are in our divine consciousness, who we are, filled with the Spirit of God, not just natural talent, right? Not just natural talent, but supernatural empowerment for sacred work. This represents, this understanding, or this movement to be filled with the Spirit of God, filled with source energy, represents how spiritual service requires divine inspiration beyond human capability alone. Our human capability will not be enough, especially as we are, journeying and we're developing, our spiritual consciousness. Okay. So it requires divine inspiration beyond those capabilities. So alone, that human capability alone will not get it. But it works through develop human skills rather than replace. So this divine inspiration, rather than replacing the human skill set, it works through, okay? So the spiritual works through the developed human skills rather than replacing them outright. So we have this wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, which should be really one of our main prayers, for wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, okay? Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. These three distinct spiritual capacities, okay? Chokama. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's CHOKHMAH, right? Which is practical wisdom. It recommends it means practical wisdom. Bina, right? Bina is discerning and understanding, and Da'at is experiential knowledge. Okay, right? So you have chokma, bina, and da'at, which practical wisdom, discerning understanding, and experiential knowledge. Okay, so if anybody knows if that's not the correct sounding, I need to work on that. I understand. Can just let us know the correct way or to pronounce those distinctive words. Let me know. So, but these represents the complete. They represent the complete spiritual equipment needed for sacred construction. All of these, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, are essential. Okay, they are the complete spiritual equipment needed for sacred construction. And so, but also the need was, and a call was, for all manner of workmanship. Okay, all manner of workmanship. The comprehensive spiritual giftedness covering every aspect of the project. Right. So it covered down to the most minute aspect of the project. Okay, was covered. Okay, through a spiritual giftedness. This shows how divine calling equips completely. So divine calling equips completely rather than partially, providing all necessary abilities for assigned spiritual work. So let's do it this way. If you're called to do something, you're going to be equipped to get it done. You're going to have everything you need to complete the project. Everything plus, okay, is going to be made available to you through you. Okay. So there was definite sacred skills and abilities, the artistic design. It says, to devise cunning works, the creative innovation inspired by divine vision. This represents consciousness that can conceive new expressions of eternal truth rather than mere repetition of existing forms. Okay, so this is the creative vision. Okay, it's so how can I say? So it's a true divine vision that you can see beyond what is the norm or what has been done before, to do something new. Okay, to do something new. Got it? Okay. And then so you have the multiple crafts mastery, working in gold, silver, bronze, stone cutting, wood carving, and textile arts. This comprehensive skill set shows how mature spiritual service often requires diverse capabilities working in unified purpose. Okay, so all these different skill sets, even if it's work that you're called to that requires multiple skill sets, even if those skill sets are not yours, then what will happen is there will be others that are going to receive inspiration that will be brought together in this project if it requires multiple persons with different and diverse skill sets, if that makes sense. So there's the notion that we hear a lot about, people who are self-made millionaires, billionaires, no, they're required other skill sets. It required other individuals who had certain skills to really bring the project to fruition, or even get them to that point, whether they give credit or not. I mean, even the building of this country required certain things. It required the land that was stolen from certain people. Then it required the work of another set of people. Okay, and then it takes the continued work of a different set of people. Okay, I saw something where it talks about the land that was stolen from the indigenous, the work that it took from the African, and then the work to keep it maintained by those Latin, Hispanic brothers and sisters. Okay. And then what else? Oh yeah, the teaching ability that they may teach others. Okay, that's in there. That phrasing, that part of the scripture, that they may teach others. The gift extends beyond personal capability to developing others. I always say, if you learn something, then you become spiritually obligated to teach it, or at least share your knowledge. But then, you actually learn even more if you teach it, right? Through teaching it. Remember, we talked about the master apprentice relationships. Those who have mastered the craft will then teach it to an apprentice, so that they can learn that craft. Okay, so true spiritual mastery includes the ability to transfer knowledge and inspire others in sacred work. Team leadership, coordinating multiple craftsmen, and maintaining vision throughout a complex project. It requires what? Team. It requires, team participation and team leadership. This represents consciousness, a consciousness that's capable of holding the divine vision while managing the practical details of manifestation. Okay? All right. So then, there has to be a collaboration, there has to be partnership. I was talking to someone earlier about a possible partnership and collaboration. In fact, I'm heading away this weekend to meet with a group of young folk who are doing some things, to help build community, to help strengthen community. And they're going to be bringing in diverse skill sets. So I'm going to go to see, about, partnering and collaboration. So that's, important. Bezalel and Oholiab, they're a partnership. Their primary and supporting roles working in harmony, representing how spiritual construction often requires collaborative leadership rather than single authority. Okay, collaborative leadership. We have to have people who buy into the project. Okay, we have to bring people, like-minded people. These are the wise-hearted workers. It says all who are wise-hearted. These are the wise-hearted workers to whom I have given wisdom, which the divine calling extends to many rather than few. So, I always say that many are called, but few answer the call. So, with those who are wise-hearted, in our text, this is to whom have given wisdom, right? This teaches how spiritual construction involves entire communities of gifted consciousness rather than isolated individuals. It is about community. It's about community. So one of the things I want to take on personally is a project that I'm calling it is about community, about building back community consciousness, community banking, community commerce. All these things. That we know that within our community that we draw strength. Okay, it is village mentality. It is the Thriving Communities Initiative. Okay. And then skill transfer and development. The master craftsmen, right? The master craftsmen teach others, creating expanded circles of sacred capability. So this represents how spiritual service multiplies by developing others rather than hoarding abilities. And this is, how can I say it? So, not understanding that it takes diverse abilities, right? Diverse skill sets, diverse ideas coming together, working in harmony. That's what's going to really benefit this country. If making America great means dividing, means getting rid of certain people, certain groups of people, as mass deportation, all this types of things is not the way. It's not the spiritual way. It's not the godly way to make anything great. Okay, to make anything great, right? So this skill transfer and development is, like I said, it represents how spiritual service multiplies by developing others rather than hoarding abilities. Then there's the divine oversight with human implementation. God provides, source provides, the creator provides the pattern and the empowerment, that and the human aspect provide the skilled labor and creative expression. Okay, God provides the pattern and the empowerment. It gives us precisely what the project is, and it then empowers us to be able to utilize our capability, our human capability, through our own creative expression, right? To get the project done. So this reveals the partnership principle in spiritual work. Okay? In spiritual work. So how do we make it practical? We always want to have this it to be practical. So we have the spiritual gifts inventory. We talked about that before, just the inventory of the gifts, the gifting that you have, identifying the divine calling and the natural abilities, sacred craftsmanship, combining inspiration with skill development. What are you inspired to do, right? What are you inspired to do? And then what skill sets can you develop, okay? What skill sets can you develop to help you to complete the project or get the project done? Then there's, you can have the partnership, exercise partnership, collaborating in spiritual construction, collaborating in the spirit, collaborating not only with the spirit, but collaborating with others who have diverse skill sets. And then remember the whole teaching and mentoring aspect. Find someone that you can mentor, be a mentee to someone, okay? And then, what are you learning that you can teach? Transferring your spiritual abilities to others. Who can you teach? Who can you bring along? Who can you mentor? That's super, super important, okay? So these are ways that you can take what we learned today and make it practical. What gifts do you bring, right? Continue to, develop your skill sets, combining it with your spiritual inspiration, collaborating, and, teaching, okay? So as we close, we want to always close with a brief meditation, right? Center yourself, relax, center and concentrate on your breathing, opening up and decalcifying your third eye. All right. And so, 3 deep breaths on the 4 count, right? Relax, deep breath in, hold it, breathe out slowly. 1 more deep breath in, and center into sacred craftsmanship consciousness. Feel divine inspiration flowing through your abilities. Notice skills being refined for spiritual service, and experience calling and the equipping, harmonizing, coming together, working together, okay? All right, breathe in 1 more time, breathe out slowly. Hey, remember, this week, remember to identify your spiritual gifts and your natural abilities. Notice where divine inspiration meets develop skills, recognize opportunities for sacred service, and practice partnership in spiritual construction. Okay? So until next week, remember divine calling includes divine equipping, sacred work combines inspiration with skill. Remember, you're always connecting the source. Empower your purpose, embrace your journey, and witness the extraordinary unfold. Peace, love, and light, beloved.